Alright, hello. So I have with me right here my math binder. And if we open it up, I'm just going to do it like this, but if we open it up here, I have, the syllabus, we don't need that. I have right here is my state standards area, and then over here we have number, algebra, geometry, data, differentiation, and then the field experiences back here behind that. Okay, so starting off, here is my Nebraska state standards. Describe how understanding. So this is it right here. I just think that understanding the organization of the standards is super important because it can help you cut down on time when you're looking for certain standards that you need to teach or at that time, or specific things that need to be taught, kind of like like a checklist, you could kind of say. That's how standards should be taught. And also, it kind of, like, this one is color-coded, which is super helpful because you can just go directly to the color that you need and know what you're looking for. So, like, it really saves you time, and it shows that you really understand the standards and you are ready to go. Notes from one chapter. Okay, so here are my notes from chapter 11. These are just ones that I typed while I was reading, so they're broken up by the headings of the text and whatever was with there. And then the e-text. So this is the activity from the e-text that I picked, and I'll just go ahead and read it to you. It's I am who is. So children practice their mental calculations and prepare for multi-digit computation by adding or subtracting multiples of 10 with two-digit numbers. So basically how it works is kids have these, every child has one of these cards that has a number on it, and then it says I am this number who is, and then it has an equation, and kids have to solve the equation, and then whoever has that number would come forward or raise their hand and be like, I am 67, who is 20 plus 10, and then the next one would be, I am 30, and it just goes on like that. So what I wrote about that is, I would incorporate this activity as either a whole group or a small group. That way there are multiple students who can participate as well as help each other and hold each other accountable. I would use this activity to help students work on their mental math and using different strategies. They could even share their strategies with each other. So that's just kind of how I did that. And then, so that was in, I'll show you, that was in my number part. I don't know what to call it. My number part, okay. Spot check number 2. So now I'm going to flip to my data. Here's my data. And I'm going to go to chapter 18. So this is also just notes that I took from the reading. I also have, for other chapters, I have the PowerPoints that we did, but for ones that didn't have PowerPoints, these are just notes I took from the reading. And then for this one, I chose to do picture graphs to bar graphs. So basically how it works is you pick a category that is interesting to the students, and then you let them make a picture graph and a bar graph, and then they can compare like how you would read one versus how you would read the other, just to kind of like get them excited and interested in what they're doing, and also then they are getting experience with two different kinds of graphs. I wrote, I will use this activity as an anticipatory set to get the students engaged and interested in learning about graphs. Something that's great about this activity is it can be about anything in their lives, and it is about them, so they will care more and be more interested. This would be a great introduction to creating and analyzing graphs. So like I said, just getting them interested and engaged. An artifact that I put in my content section. So under differentiation, assessment, and planning, strategies down there, that little tiny thing. She gave us this article about teams of 4 are magic, and so I just want to talk about that for a little bit. But I just think that teams of 4 are magic. This is a really great article for a lot of reasons, but it's super short for one thing, easy to read, and it talks about something that's really important, which is like group sizes. And I think that in my experience anyways, teachers like to put students together, like working with each other, so then it's less whole group instruction and it's less like this student looking off over here, this student doodling on his paper, and then like everyone is being held accountable. So like what this article talks about is the basic principles of cooperative learning, and it focuses on group size. So it talks about how groups of 7 are too many kids, because then not as many kids are actively involved for as long. One of the examples they gave was during a whole instruction class, a teacher would call on a student, and that student would be the only student that's being actively engaged at that point. And so groups of 4, there's more students being actively involved in a given minute than if you were to do the whole class at one time. Or if they gave examples of teams of 7, there's 7 kids, then that's not as much time for each kid to share their ideas and stuff, their thoughts. So that's kind of why I chose that one, just because I've experienced it a lot in my field experiences and in the classrooms that I've been in, where teachers do groups of 2 a lot, I've noticed, or groups of 3. And it talks about in here how the only other team size which does as well as a team of 4 is a team of 2, but the point it makes is that with groups of 2, there aren't as many diverse opinions or diverse explanations, not as much diversity. You know, there's only 2 people, so you're only getting 2 ideas, whereas teams of 4, there's 4 people and you're getting more ideas. And it also talks about, well, it doesn't say anything about teams of 3, it only talks about teams of 7, but it talks about efficiency and how teams of 4 are much more efficient because there's less kids. So like when you have groups of 7, then the kids start to kind of form subgroups, and then you have 2 groups within one group, and they're not all collaboratively working together. It's more like this group is doing this and this group is doing this, and then they come together and they put it together, but they don't ever talk together about their explanations or what they're thinking or ideas or anything like that. So that's kind of like the importance of that, I think. And rank the following 4 areas of importance: planning, methods, discipline, evaluation. So of those 4 areas, I would say that I think that evaluation is the most important, because without knowing where the students are at, it's really hard to build on what they know if you don't know what they know. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but evaluation, I just think that's the most important, because as teachers, we do assessments and we give tests in order to find out where students are at developmentally, where they're at in their learning. And that's important because that's what we build our instruction off of, and that's how we know what to teach them next. You know, so like if we didn't do assessments, then we would just teach, we would teach the standards probably still, but we wouldn't know if it was getting through to the students, or if we just moved on to another topic without them understanding this topic, then the next thing they learn isn't going to make any sense. So that's why I think evaluation is important, because we have to know where they're at with what we taught them before moving on to a new topic or content or subject area. So I would say that is number 1. And then I would say planning would be the second most important, because if you're not ready, then you won't know what to do. At least in my experience, if I'm not ready and have everything planned out, I don't know what to do. I'm not very good at winging it. So I have to have a plan, and I have to have backup plans in order to feel prepared for what I'm going to teach. Obviously, teachers have to be flexible too, and so you kind of have to go with what happens. But I just feel better knowing that I have a plan, and even if I don't stick to it exactly, I still have that plan there to help me and fall back on. If I need a quick idea for something they can do for the last 5 or 10 minutes because we finished early, I have something. I don't need to sit and rack my brain trying to come up with something that would be developmentally appropriate, relative to what we're doing, like not a waste of time, not busy work, like anything like that, because I wrote it in my plan, so I already have something, an idea to do. And then I would say that discipline is probably, I would think, the next important one, because if there isn't discipline in what you're doing and what you're having the students do and holding them accountable, then nothing matter. It doesn't matter, because it's just going like in it one ear and out the other. You know, they're not invested, they're not interested, they don't care what they're doing, or maybe they're just so distracted by what's going on that they can't focus on what they're doing because another student over here is messing around or trying to talk to them. So I just think that discipline would be the third most important thing, just because it helps students focus and it holds them accountable. Like, they know, I'm not moving on until you're ready, because if you're not ready, then you're not learning, and we're here to learn. Like, that's why we're there. That's why we as teachers are there, to teach them so they can learn. And then the last one, not that this one isn't like important, but I would say methods. It's still very, very important, don't get me wrong. I think it's very important. But I put that one last because I just feel like you have to have all the other things in order to know what to do for your methods, you know? Like, I can choose a random method, but if I don't know where the students are at from evaluating them, and I don't have any idea what to plan based off of that, and I don't know how to execute it and keep them on task, then like what I chose to do wouldn't really make a difference. As much of a difference as it could, at least, is my opinion. Okay, and an artifact that I put in my field experience tab. So here's my field experience tab. I put, this isn't really, I printed off all of our prompts for our field experience reflections, but that's not really what I wanted to talk about. Something that I chose to put in my field experience tab is this, where is it? Oh, right here. This 8 effective mathematical teaching practices. And I put this in my field experience because it matched one of our prompts that we had for the week, which was choose an effective practice that we witnessed in the classroom, and so that's why I put it with that prompt, so I would remember like what it looks like when I look back on it. But I chose this because it has everything that you need to know pretty much about the 8 most effective mathematical practices and why they are effective, which is super important. When you know why things are effective, then that helps you want to do it and like make sense of it. So I chose to put that. It's relevant because honestly, like I witnessed this stuff happen in my 2nd grade classroom from my field experience, and it was so amazing the difference that I saw in the students when their teacher was there doing it and when they had a sub who didn't necessarily know how to do these things. They had a sub twice when I was there, and it wasn't the same sub, but they both kind of did the same things that weren't as hit on these. Like their teacher, Mrs. Avila, she was amazing. She hit these right on the head. And it was truly incredible to see like the difference in the students when these were used as when they were just like when the teacher just gave them the answer. That happened a few times with the subs, but like one of them is elicit and use evidence of student thinking. So like they were able to explain their thinking, and they were able to explain it to me, who was like there twice a week, you know, not a consistent person in their life, but they were able to explain to me what they were thinking and why they thought that, which I thought was super important. And then tasks that promote reasoning and problem solving. She, obviously it's a Eureka plan, lesson plan, but her tasks were always on point and they were always very meaningful, and that is where I think students really got the practice that they needed, was in those tasks, because they were so helpful. Like, they were just like perfectly designed for that. And she shared with me that she's a very strong believer in productive struggle, which is another point of the mathematical practices, is letting them be in productive struggle and letting them figure it out on their own. So, yeah. Differentiation. So, when I taught my lesson, I taught it pretty early on. It was like the second week that we were there, the third day or something like that. It was super early. So, I had a little bit of an idea of who the students were and how they would learn and things like that, but I didn't have a totally clear idea. But, so with my differentiation, I did a lesson about money. So they practiced drawing coins and they practiced adding coins and things like that. And so the differentiation that I used was kind of related to, differentiation that I used was mostly related to them being able to use the manipulative. So one of the things I had them do was use this hundreds chart, and they had coin tiles, and they could place the coin tiles on the numbers to help them visualize how much each coin was worth, and then to add them together. And I also let them just draw coins if they chose to do that, which a lot of them did, but they could just draw coins. So those were kind of their differentiation options. They also had the option of what did they have them do? The hundreds chart, drawing coins, and they could just write the amounts of the money, and they didn't have to necessarily turn it into coins, but although I kind of wanted them to. But so that was kind of where I put my differentiation on how they could represent their equations, basically. So, an example of when I planned but things did not go as planned. Okay, so this was when there was a sub, actually, towards the middle of the semester, but they had a sub, and I knew they were having a sub. The day before, or the 2 days before, it was a Thursday, and she told me on Tuesday that they were having a sub. She'd be gone on Thursday. And so she gave me their Eureka lesson, which, like, you can find online, but it just basically, like, is their packet that they have that they take out of their Eureka plan books. And so she gave me that to kind of, like, prepare, and I looked at it for, I think 2 hours, and in between those 2 days, like, thinking, okay, I can have them do this, and I can have them do this, and she wanted me to do this and this, and I felt so prepared, and I was so excited to go in that day, and ready to teach this small group this lesson, and I was so prepared. I felt like I had planned it all out, and I was ready, and I get into the class that day, and I saw the sub, and so I introduced myself, and she was like, oh yeah, the 4th graders are doing a presentation today, so we're not having small groups, we're going to the library instead. And I was just like, okay, cool, sounds good. So I didn't get to do that lesson. They did it the next day when I wasn't there, but we ended up going to the library for not all, but the majority of their math time. So I taught, just kidding, I didn't teach any of it. So I didn't get to do that, even though I was really prepared, but it felt great to be prepared. It was a little disappointing I didn't get to teach, but I can't do anything about that. So the 4th graders actually did a really good job with their presentation, so I wasn't too disappointed because I got to see what that was like. But I was a little disappointed I didn't get to teach the lesson that I had prepared for. But they still learned the material, so that's what's important, right? Okay, and then how you intend to use your math notebook in the future. I actually am really happy that we did these portfolios because it has all the e-text, not only like the notes we took, but the e-text activities, I think is what's super awesome, because these are like real activities that can be used in the classroom to help students, and we won't always have access, actually we won't have access to the e-text after this year unless we want to buy it again. So I just think that printing these off was a super great idea, and just I can look back at them, and I printed more than one for some of them, so I have multiple ideas of how I can do things and different activities to keep them engaged. And the notes are really important because they hit, like, if you look over them, they have all the subheadings that are labeled, so I can just look at those and be done. Like, that is awesome. And the differentiation tab is so nice, because differentiation is so important, because not all the students are, you know, the same. They learn differently and they go at different paces, and being able to meet them where they are is super important in teaching. And the field experience, I am actually really happy with this, because it has an actual packet from their Eureka lesson plan book that she gave me to like look over for that one day. And it has all of our prompts in it, so I can still reflect later. It has my lesson plan in it, and it has my teacher's feedback in it, and it has my peers' feedback, and it also has the manipulative, or the papers that I used when I gave the students, when I taught the lesson, and it has all of their exit tickets. So this is what I gave them as an exit ticket, and they all had to fill it out, and I have all of them as kind of like an evaluation assessment type deal. So I can just look back at this, and I can have my lesson plan, and I have everything that I made in order to make the lesson plan go smoothly. So I have all that stuff already, and so when I'm ready to teach money, I'll just have everything right here. And if I need tips for how to differentiate, I have that right here too. And if I need to know what standards I want to use or where I want to hit, I have that right here as well. So I really love this portfolio idea. And yep, that's all I have.